Unbelievable! Are you looking for a no-nonsense property and business podcast? Our mission is to provide jam-packed content straight to your ears, where we can add value and unpick the fluff in the industry. If this sounds like a bit of you, then strap in and hold tight for an episode with Heidi and Dan.
Brad's a professional rugby football player, and I don't know why I said rugby football player, but rugby player, and a property investor and sourcer. So thanks for coming on tonight, Brad.
No, it's not a problem, mate. I wish I were a footballer. A lot more money in that, isn't there?
Yeah, that's why you got to do property as well, isn't it?
Yeah, got to do that on the side as well.
Perfect. So, Brad, I guess first and foremost, then, do you want to tell us a bit about your background, who you are, where you grew up, and what led you to playing rugby professionally?
Yeah, of course. So, I grew up in a place called Normanton, which is in Wakefield area. Obviously started playing football and at a young age, but I think my dad probably pushed me into rugby. He played professionally as well, so I played football up to about the age of 7, and then he just said one week, "Do you want to do rugby?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm not bothered. I'm enjoying my football right now. Now you go into rugby." So went down rugby training and just loved it from there. Started at a team called Normanton Knights, and then finished playing amateur at Dewsbury Moor. Signed professional at 15, first professional contract for a club called Leeds Rhinos. Signed for them, spent a couple of years there, and then I've spent the last 5 years at a team called Castleford Tigers. Still play now. Yeah, that's part of the rugby journey, really.
Perfect. So it's down to your dad then for you playing rugby. Are you happy with his decision now you're playing professional? Or?
Yeah, I am, to be fair. I mean, rugby gives you all sorts. I probably wouldn't be in property if I didn't play rugby, because a few of the older lads in rugby was into all the property things, and it got me looking into it and looking at different options and just learning that rugby's not actually that secure with the contracts that we're on. But yeah, everything's probably down to him and him pushing me into it, and I think he wasn't necessarily pushing me into the rugby, just pushing me into some kind of sport and getting some discipline and training and keeping fit and healthy, really. But yeah, a lot of it, I mean, he's probably biggest supporter by now. I don't think he's ever missed a game. I've played in France against Catalan, played against Toulouse. He goes to all the away games. He'll go to Catalan away, Toulouse away when they're in Super League last year or year before, I think they were. So yeah, he never misses one.
Brilliant. He's proud of you, though, and he's seen you out there playing.
I hope so. He never stops talking about it. I've probably had 3 messages today about rugby. That's all he ever thinks about, just messaging me, "Oh, you playing this week, how we're training," things like that. It's annoying at times, but it's literally his life and all he ever thinks about.
Brilliant. So how old are you now? Remind me.
Just on 23. Birthday's on 6th of Feb. Yeah, literally just on 23 now.
So how long have you been playing at Castleford for then, and when did you start playing rugby league?
Yeah, so been at Cass, this is my 5th year there now. Debuted, 4 or 5 years ago now. Played my first Super League game when just before COVID. So yeah, and obviously at Leeds before that. At Leeds I was scholarship academy, and then just a little bit in the first team. Then went from Leeds straight to Cass, and then played Super League debut for Cass.
Yeah, so obviously you've played in a number of different games. Obviously you played for Leeds, you played for Castleford. Come up through the youth system and stuff like that. But what would you say that your proudest moment in your career is? Since you started playing rugby, what would you say the proudest moment is?
Probably Super League debut. I mean, in the UK, the pinnacle, the highest point is, the highest level you can play at is Super League. Obviously, not taking into international, things like that. But yeah, probably Super League debut, because obviously starting as a young kid, and everyone who plays rugby just wants to play Super League, really. So, rugby and sport, and I'm sure we'll get into it, is not an easy ride at all. There's a lot of discipline, a lot of setbacks, a lot of frustrating moments, and that's why a lot of, I think, young lads leave the game, just of how frustrating it is and how many times you get knocked back. but to obviously push through and make the Super League debut is just essentially what you achieve for. But I've always been within the mindset that, so obviously you make Super League debut, beforehand you buzz in, afterwards it seems to be like, I've done it, well now I want to play 30, 50, 100, and when you get to 50 games it's like, well I want to play 100 now. So I think whilst I've always been the same, whilst you're in the moment of like playing and business as well, when you achieve something it doesn't really feel that good, but I think afterwards when you retire, you might sell up in businesses when you really think, oh yeah, that was good, that was a good achievement.
What was your first game?
Hull KR. Yeah, it were at the Saints ground. I got knocked out. Yeah. I came on, did okay. I was meant to be going off within the next couple of minutes. Went into a tackle, smashed my head on his hip, and just got knocked out. My parents, first time I've ever been knocked out as well. Parents were in the stands. I was just thinking afterwards, first time I was just sparked out on the floor on my back.
It must have been embarrassing.
Was
there many there?
We did it at the Saints. We were at the Saints ground, so we were in COVID when, you were, straight in COVID, when you had to play at like neutral grounds and things like that. So there were no fans. They had the cardboard cutouts as sat in the seats. It probably helped a little bit because obviously before Super League you used to playing in front of not that many people there. So yeah, there were no crowd there when I was playing.
What's it like playing in front of a lot of people? Do you get put off at all?
I think it depends what stadium you're at. Like at the Cas Stadium, so everyone's basically on top of you. Cas obviously old stadium, things like that. When you're on the field, the fans are literally stood basically on the same level as you nearly, all screaming, shouting. Obviously when you kick off carries at the away end, getting loads of abuse. But I think when you're at a stadium like Leeds, Warrington, I don't think you really notice when you're playing. Obviously you look up and you can hear the crowd, but when you're in the moment I don't think you notice that much. That's just me. Some players might feel a bit of pressure, but when I'm actually playing, you don't really think about anything else. Probably because I'm not tired.
Pretty knackered.
Can't breathe.
How do you get fit for your games?
So we have obviously a pre-season without the game. So from November through to Feb is pre-season. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So it's pretty full on in pre-season. It's really, really tough. Like Monday's normally conditioning, then Tuesday will be a contact day, then you got Wednesday off, then Thursday conditioning, Friday a little bit chill, and Saturday's normally like a hills session. We do hills at like Round A Park in Leeds, Wakey. Saturday's normally you one that you dread. You think, I don't want to do this, because it's normally about 7 o'clock in the morning as well, sprinting up hills and stuff. But obviously as we get into the season, which is where sort of like the property and business side come in, being able to, like time-wise, being able to do it. Like this week we've got 2 days off and the rest of the days we finish at like 12, half 12. So in season we're pretty free. We've got quite a lot of time on our hands to do other things.
So obviously you do property and things like that. Have you always thought about going into business, or have you always thought that being in rugby and having that as a career will provide you security for long term?
I think so. When I was at Leeds and sort of the younger days, and it's same in all sports professions. I think some clubs give you the impression that they're going to sign you on first team contracts. You're going to be there for the next 10 years, and it just doesn't happen like that in professional sport. Also, we're on contracts, so you're on like a 1, 2, 3, 4 year contract. Obviously, at the end of that contract, the club might say, "Oh no, we don't want you for whatever reason," and then you've either got to find another club. But then, if there's no clubs that want you, then you're pretty stuck. So I think it was more the financial security side of things for me. And I say this to a lot of the lads that I play with now. You need something as a backup. Because there's no security in professional sport. All like injuries, for example, if you get injured, might stop your career, then what do you do? So I think it's more of a longevity thing for me, starting the property businesses. But also I think made me enjoy rugby a lot more, knowing that I can just go out there, train, enjoy playing, enjoy training, knowing that financially I'm okay, and if everything was to stop, then I'd be okay. So yeah, obviously security side and obviously financial side in rugby. Obviously mentioned earlier, football's a lot different, but in rugby at a young age, you're not paid well until you get sort of older, play more games, play more Super League, Championship, whatever it is. Then you start earning a bit of money. But yeah, in rugby at the younger days, you paid less than apprenticeship wages. So, and I think that's another reason a lot of the lads don't continue, just because of the wage side of things. You've got to sacrifice probably, 3-4 years when you're younger on a terrible wage to then obviously reap the rewards of being on a decent one. But I were more, if I didn't have the businesses and didn't have the property, I probably wouldn't have continued playing. I'd have gone into property full time, or I'd gone into an apprenticeship, something that paid a little bit better, probably.
Thanks for giving the insight into rugby and that. So, just want to talk on, like I mentioned before, about people in sports. They tend to do quite well in business. What do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Do you think, like you touched on, because of the discipline and everything like that?
Yeah, I think it plays a massive part, and obviously there's people that do well within professional sport that obviously do well in business, but there's other people that don't as well. So I don't think it's all down to sport and what they teach. I think it's down to that particular person, from even how they've been brought up to personality traits and everything. But rugby, if you go through the motions, probably helps in all life. Obviously from a young age, from 15, 16, not many 15, 16-year-olds go through like the discipline. Like at Leeds, for example, we had rules where if you forgot your water bottle, you get fined. If you wore the wrong kit, you get fined. If you're late to any sessions, gyms, you got fined and you won't play at the weekend. So that discipline trait, I think it just teaches you about life and discipline and being able to, not forget things and turn up and everything, which obviously goes into business. And again, with rugby, probably the biggest one is work ethic. You've got to want to turn up to train, because the training's hard. Even from a 15, 16-year-old, when I was at Leeds, training's so tough. You've got to want to turn up. You know you're going to get flogged. You know you're going to get smashed about. But it's just that work ethic to do it, which obviously comes into business, discipline, turn up for meetings, messaging someone, ringing someone when you said they would. And again, just probably working so hard. Like, I'm nowhere near the smartest person, nowhere near. But I think something that does come inside is just working as hard as possible and turning up for things and not missing any appointments and things like that. So I think it all does align with each other.
Yeah, I think, like you say, it's having that hard work and the work ethic, isn't it? To, hard work can outbeat talent sometimes, can't it, or skill. So that's important. And you mentioned earlier about like having setbacks. What sort of setbacks have you had in your career, and how do you think that's helped you in property?
I had a few. Yeah, I've had quite a few. So obviously, young lad out at Leeds. My view when I was at Leeds to obviously go fully into the first team, play Super League, and essentially stay there. But that didn't happen. I think I was 17, 18. Leeds said, look, we think you can make it as a professional, but we essentially don't. We're not signing you. So that was a big, massive thing for me. Like, it's same with some. You see, obviously, young football players happen to them. That gets documented probably a lot more. But obviously, I sat in the meeting room and they said, "No, we don't want you." Whereas previously, it's acted like, "Oh, we're going to offer you this. You're going to be here for the next few years," things like that. And then they just drop of the hat. You're gone. We don't want you. And that's when I actually started the first business, which, as you mentioned before, was a sourcing business. That moment, probably after that, is when or just before that, when I first started realising that maybe they might not keep me here. That's when I first started it. But yeah, that was a big one for me, because all I wanted to be was a rugby player, play Super League. At that point, I hadn't. And then luckily for me, put some feelers out, and Cass came in for me. So then I ended up signing there. I signed at Cass. I terrible wage on the basis that I could train with the first team. So it wasn't even a first team contract, it was a reserve contract, rubbish money. But I said, look, I'll sign for that money, but I want to train with the first team, just to sort of prove that I can do it, I can play at that level. But there's a type of sacrifice you have to make in rugby, I think, if you want to make it. And then obviously prior to that, I think the year before that, so I played for England under 16s. And for me, it was a big setback. I went into the England setup, trained all week, playing Saturday, and then day before, no, you're not being selected, mate.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, that was probably the first one that was tough, because obviously as an amateur, when you're getting selected and seen as one of the better players, never ever missed out in a team. Amateur days, school, being picked for England, Yorkshire, things like that, never missed a game, and you're not made it, mate. But it was a 3-game series at England, so obviously I didn't make the first game, absolutely gutted. Obviously a lot of the other lads that I knew were playing, and I ended up playing game 2. Game 2 and 3 I ended up playing. So I just trained as hard as I could, picked myself up, and eventually got into the team, played game 2 and 3, and then fine. But it even comes down to like weekly stuff. Like obviously when you're playing in Super League, you can get dropped. If you don't play well enough, then you get dropped, then that affects you. You cannot get picked, week in, week out. There's loads of little setbacks with rugby that if you're not resilient, then you won't be playing very long.
Yeah. I was going to say, you've got to have that resilience about you, and just like not so much brush it off, but use it to your advantage, and just be like, right, I got dropped because of X, Y, and Z. I now need to go out and fucking go for it again, even harder this week, to prove that I do deserve a spot. Yeah,
and I think it's just a lot of it comes down to being quite honest with yourself and realising, like, if you go through and they've dropped you and you think, I shouldn't have been dropped, I'm better than them, whatever, and you don't realise like what you need to work on, the mistakes you've made, then you'll struggle. But yeah, sport, there's setbacks every single week, even like injuries as well, that can set you back and quite affect you.
Yeah, definitely. So you said obviously having that setback from Leeds, and then obviously Castleford taking you on, that's when you set up your property business. Do you want to talk about your first property business that you set up and why that specific one?
Yeah, so the first business that is still running now, so it's been running just over 5 years now, is a company called Professional Property Sourcing, which includes in the name is a sourcing company. Again, set it up about 17, 18 years old, that sort of region. So we've got an office space in Pontefract now. We've got about 7 staff working for us. And essentially what we do is we source rent-to-SAs, buy-to-lets and HMOs. The reason I chose a sourcing business over anything, to be honest, it wouldn't be my preferred choice. It wasn't my preferred choice, but at that stage, obviously I mentioned about money and things like that. That's probably the easy, not the easiest, but the less financial thing to get into in property. So you need to pay for your compliance, couple of things like DocuSign and some brochures and things like that. But yeah, it's a couple of $1,000 to get set up. So that's all I had. Did some research. Obviously, the older lads who played at Leeds were doing like buy-to-lets, things like that. They had 40, 50 grand to throw about. I didn't. So I have to do this sourcing thing. So started the sourcing, started going to networking events. I met all business partners in the sourcing company at a networking event in Leeds. So I think for anyone, if you want to get started, there's a lot of rubbish networking events. But there's a lot of really good ones. But it's more about the people that you meet there more than anything. Like I've met a couple of different business partners from networking events, a lot of investors and things like that. So yeah, we set up the sourcing business just because of we couldn't afford to do anything else. We ran the model in the sourcing business probably a little bit differently at the time than others. We take a portion of the sourcing fee up front, and that's what we originally started with. So we charge for rent-to-SAs at £3,000, but it's plus VAT now, but at the time £3,000 sourcing fee. But then we go, right, we'll source a deal to your criteria, but we want £500 up front to do that.
Yeah.
That was one client. One client, £500, right, go out, find it, found it, tick it off, move on to the next. So we started at such a small scale. I did the sourcing, my business partner did the sales, and then just rolled it up from there, really. In COVID, in that business, we doubled. I think just people had so much free time on their hands.
Yeah.
And people realising, the company that they're working for might go bust here. They might, what can I do? I've got families, I've got houses, mortgages to pay for, I need something. And everyone always looks to property. And we did rent to rent, which if you're not going to start a sourcing business, rent to rent is probably the other strategy that is less money in. So a lot of people tend to us, can you get us a rent to rent deal? And obviously it were out for a while because of COVID, but we focused on contractors, and contractors were working quite a lot of time through it. So yeah, we essentially scaled that business up. Like I say, we've got offices in Pontefract, 7 full-time staff members, done over 500 deals now, sourced.
Is that a year or in total?
In total, yeah. So about 100 a year on average. But I think the sourcing business has done so well. Just every other business I've started has come off the back of the sourcing business.
Yeah.
But it's sourcing's hard work. Like our sales guys are making probably 50, 60 calls a day to agents, plus obviously the all connections we've got. Yeah, we've got like a big group structure, and everything. Every business feeds into each other now.
Yeah. No, I know. I resonate totally with the sourcing side of things. Same. I started off in doing sourcing. Wanted to get into property. I just moved to Hull a couple of years earlier. I realised that it was a lot cheaper down here than where I'm from, down south, up here. Sorry, and then got into sourcing, and that's where I met, like say, investors wanting to buy. I met my business partner. The first property I sourced and did a BRR for was Tracy, who then became my business partner.
Yeah.
And then we scaled it to 11 units within 2 years, including a commercial to resi, and that just come from sourcing. So I think you learn a lot from sourcing as well, because you have to negotiate, analyze, sell. You have to sell it, but you have to make sure it's right. You can't just sell anything off. But
yeah,
and like you say, once you get your network, I did the same as well, charging people up front, because some people as well, like there's a lot of tire kickers out there. Yeah, I want this, and you're like, yeah, I found you what you wanted, and they're like, nah. You're like, well, fuck it.
Don't want it.
Yeah, exactly. So it is a challenge, but like I say, it leads to a lot of stuff. It led for me to setting up the lettings, which are sold, and then setting up various other stuff as well. But yeah, you seem to have done a good job. Obviously, going from nothing to 7 staff, over 500 deals. What's it look like on a day-to-day then for you at the minute with your role in the business? So
my role has changed a little bit, probably back end of last year, start of this. So the other business partner that I started with, he sold his 50% of the business November last year. So we went through like a business sale and things like that, which, to be honest, completely honest, was brilliant for the business. Absolutely brilliant. That director wasn't as active as we would have liked. So yeah, absolutely brilliant for the business. Just we've got an active director in there now that works, all day, obviously after hours and things like that, as well as a director. But my sort of role has sort of changed. Like prior to that, I did all sales. We've got a couple of the sales guys, but I did all the sales and client communications and selling deals and pushing the deals through, and essentially probably more face of the business and getting the clients in. Now it's more of a little step back. We brought another staff member in to take over my role, head of sales. The other director that bought in, he does head of sourcing now. Obviously each guys have a couple of different guys underneath them, and I sort of sit and overlook everything. So probably more of a business development sort of side of things. Where can we improve that? Do we need more clients? Do we need to look after these clients? Do we need to get that deal now? And then obviously looking at ways that we can improve the business. And it's been brilliant. So obviously we'll probably go on to a bit. Off the back of that, I've been able to like build a couple of other different revenue streams away from the business that essentially complement the sourcing business. Like the lettings business that we set up, for example, everything complements sort of the sourcing business, but that's sort of the pinnacle, and everything feeds around it. But yeah, I much prefer the role I'm in now. To be honest, the sales role is tough, especially if you're doing it with 1 or 2 a year more.
Yeah.
But it allows me a little bit more time just to see an overview, what needs to be done, and where we're lacking, and seeing how we can improve it. Really.
Yeah, I think you underestimated yourself there. You basically described a CEO. CEO.
Yeah, something along those lines. Not quite there. I don't think the business isn't at the scale, I don't think, to call myself a CEO. But yeah, it's very similar role. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I much prefer that kind of role, and I think it quite suits probably where we're at right now.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, I mean, when did I meet you? It was probably about 2 years ago now, wasn't it?
Oh, a good few years ago, yeah.
2.5 years. And you reached out to me because I had the lettings agent and you wanted rent to rent.
Literally, yeah.
That was literally how it set
I
out.
think you probably just set it up as around that time, didn't you, the lettings business?
Yeah.
So as soon as you set it up, I would have on your back. So yeah, although I'm doing the sales, obviously I do a little bit of sourcing as well. I was stuck so far in the business. I was doing sales, then a bit of sourcing, then also looking after all the accounts, all the fees coming in, compliance. When I look at it, I'm probably doing everything.
Yeah.
Which now I've been able to take a step back. The business has grown a little bit more as well, which is weird. But I was really nervous to take that step back. I was, I think it is a big jump to go. Probably when you're in the business, probably in the mix of everything, to taking a little step back, you think, shit, like the business isn't going to do as well. But I think if you train people up, you need to learn that people can do stuff just as well as you, or maybe not just as well, but do a really good job, allowing you more time to do other things as well.
Yeah, I think I can't remember whether it's Bill Gates or someone else. It's like you want to hire people who are better at the job than you will be, because they're the ones who are going to be able to advance the business. Like you say, you're able to take a strategic role then and look at things holistically and for a long-term view, and then they can execute what you're trying to achieve, which is quite important, is it? So you touched on the other business, so you got the letting business. So do you want to tell us a bit about that? What is it you do with that?
Yeah, so the letting business we've got now is a company called KK Accommodation, obviously based in Hull. That business has actually been running about 5 years, same as PPS, 5.5 years. I recently came into it in January, so I've not been into that business long, but I'll go into it, the scale that we've seen since I've come into it is pretty crazy, and it's probably the primarily growing business at the minute. But the other director of that company, he managed my HMO since I had him, couple of buy-to-lets, and all the PPS clients that was buying in Hull and surrounding, he managed those clients' deals. Just due to the scale that we were doing, and when I took a step back, I've got a little bit more time here. I've always probably wanted to do something in lettings and management, and the whole point of starting the sourcing business was to buy, which obviously the primary thing now is to buy and grow as much as possible. So lettings and management makes complete sense. So I approached the director and I said, look, we're passing you so many properties here, obviously my properties, clients, etc. I want to do it. It makes sense for us just to start up ourselves. And we had a few chats, and it ended up that I would go into that business with him. So it makes complete sense. And my whole role in that business now is essentially to grow as much as possible. So my thing is bring the landlords on board, bring the properties on board, obviously bring all the stock as normal through PPS, obviously own personal stuff as well. And I think since I've come into it, we've onboarded, we've got in the pipeline 33 properties to onboard extra. Yeah. Probably started this month, probably early last month properly. So we're just growing at such a scale, and to be honest, I was under the impression, and probably from a couple of other people who spoke to that, lettings and management is hard, and a couple of people said, look, it's not that profitable. But I think lettings and management, if you do it at scale, so if you've got 100, 200, 300 properties, and the other reason I want to start is PPS, the sourcing business, like you'll know, and a lot of people will know. If you don't work as hard as possible that month, you're not getting paid. If you don't do any deals, you're not getting paid that month. Whereas the lettings management is recurring income. It's not passive, but it's recurring.
Yeah.
So once you've got the property on board tenanted, you can pretty much cash flow and forecast what's coming in next month, plus obviously the others that you add. So yeah, we've been managing Hull, Doncaster. We've got one in Wakefield. So in and around, obviously I'm based in Pontefract. We've just got offices for KK in Hull on Tottenham Road. We're just doing them up, getting it all branded. About 5 or 6 staff members that are going to go into that office that are already active in the business. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that side of things now, and again, I love meeting people and new landlords and properties, and we've just housed about 25 Siemens contractors in Hull that are working on a project there, so it's doing quite well.
Seems like you do touch the gold. Everything you do turns to gold. I remember it was me. One of the people that said don't do letters was me, but I agree with what you say. Like,
yeah,
I did it completely from start up, and I was doing everything. I didn't have other people around me at first. That's unfair to say. Tracy and I was doing everything.
Yeah.
But then trying to do that whilst trying to do the sourcing and focusing on the lettings. The lettings is a lot more time intensive if you're working in it on a daily basis to do from the marketing, the onboarding, like say onboarding the landlords, onboarding the tenants, marketing the viewings, the inspections, like that. For me, it stopped the growth of my sourcing.
Yeah.
And then it's like going back to sources. I felt like I had to start again. But like what you did, I think you've come into a business where you've got your sourcing, your clients, they're all coming through. People are running that business. You've got obviously gone in with KK. He's already got a bit of a team, and it's like doing them similar sort of business development roles, and then like say scaling it.
Yeah.
If I was to look in hindsight, I'd probably have waited until I got to 30, 40, 50 properties of my own or our own before I set the lettings up, because that would have covered all costs initially and everything like that. But no, I totally get it. But yeah, it seems like you're doing really well since we last spoke anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I think I had a couple of conversations with I know a couple of people in Hull that I'm quite close to and done loads of work for us and things like that. And I spoke to him, and because he used to have a letting agency, well, set up on your own, do it by yourself. Obviously, just all the people that I'll be bringing are from me.
Yeah.
And I did think about it. I said I could set up on my own and probably have on board with the same amount of properties, but it's just me. So I've got to employ staff, get officers, whereas I've always preferred going into a structure that's already there and then doing it. I think the thing that I've learned, and it probably comes from rugby, like I've always grew the businesses at the same time as playing rugby and training. I need like staff members that if I can't get there at 12 o'clock on a Tuesday, I can ring them and go, can you get there at 12 o'clock on Tuesday? I can't go. I essentially need to use other people's time, and obviously vice versa. If I'm not training, I'll do it for other people. But I think you've got to use other people's time and just work as a team. So yeah, going into that kind of structure, like today, for example, training in the morning, I needed, we just took on a 7-bed in Hull that we've just fully let within a week. Needed a fridge, needed a dryer. Landlord's really, really busy. I can go and do it. Annetta, who works for KK, Annetta, can you go and get this sorted for us? So I think using the people around you and that sort of time wise is helped massively. I wouldn't have been able to do it probably by myself or scale to the level we need to.
Yeah. Do you think subconsciously that comes from the fact that you've always been in a team or part of a team, and you know that in order to win a game you have to have a team around you and work together? Do you think subconsciously that plays a part?
I think now you've said it, probably yeah, but I've never actually thought about it that way. Obviously, so I've played rugby since I was 8 years old, always been around the team. Probably in other sports like boxing, they might think a little bit differently. They're on their own a little bit more. But yeah, it probably does. I've always preferred to be around the team. Obviously, you can bounce ideas off each other. They can help you. You help them if you've had a shit day. they might have had a great day with the landlord. So I think now you said it, it's probably where I'm most comfortable being around the team. That's why we've probably always jumped into, like I've run into KK and said, we need an office. And we manage a hell of a lot of properties and don't have an office. We need an office. We need all the people in there. We need to be working with each other. We need to be sat next to each other when we're not out. So yeah, I think definitely now you've said it, it's probably my comfort. That's just what I prefer and what I'm used to, really. And to be fair, I think it does work a lot in business. I've always, every single business I've gone into, except from some investment, like buying properties, has been as a duo. So as two directors, not myself, which I've always preferred, to be honest.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting. I just thought of it then. So obviously you got your the source, and you own some properties yourself as well, don't you?
Yes, we've got 11 now, based in. Well, we've got 11.
Number was Grafton Street?
Say again, sorry.
What number was Grafton when I met you?
68.
No, not the door number. I meant what number of purchase was it?
Oh right.
1 or 2, wasn't it?
Number 1.
Yeah. So I sourced your first property, and now you're on 11, and that was what, 18 months ago? 2 years?
You sourced our second as well, 65 St George's.
Yeah. Yeah, sourced that one as well.
Yeah, and then you've not got any more from me since.
I had a sabbatical. I had a break.
Yeah, and but yeah, so we're up to 11 now. We've only got 2 in Doncaster, obviously 9 in Hull. We've got 2 rent-to-rents as well in Doncaster and Nottingham, which I don't really include in the 11. Like my primarily focus is to buy. 2 rent-to-rents have done well. It is a great strategy if you start. Like we took them on quite a bit before I bought. They've done well. Obviously, it's up and down. I say, as you'll know, you've done some service accommodation as well, haven't you? So, some months you can be up here, the next month you're down there. It's so fluctuated. Yeah, I think SA can work really well if you've got a structure where you've got some buy-to-let, some HMOs, some income you know that's coming in, where you can take the risk on the SA. Or do how we did it. We didn't have the money to buy, so we did rent-to-rent, and it went well for us. But yeah, our primarily focus is to buy in Hull this year. HMOs and buy-to-lets are just incredible demand at the minute.
What, on buy-to-lets or both HMOs and buy-to-lets?
HMOs and buy-to-lets. The main focus it's always been is HMOs. Like St George's that we got a few. We took it from a just a little small thing, a 3-bed buy-to-let to a 4-bed HMO.
Actually, planning that one as well. It was Article 4, wasn't it?
Article 4, so we went full planning permission on it, which was a little bit obviously our first experience with planning permission, everything like that. Personally, it were a lot easier than I thought it'd be. Like Hull City Council and everyone around there actually help you get the planning through. Like if you submit something on the email saying you've submitted this wrong, you need to do this and we can pass it. Whether I got a really good planning officer, but yeah, he was brilliant with us getting it through. So yeah, turned that to a 3-bed buy-to-let to a 4-bed HMO, and so it's been tenanted ever since, really. We did something a little bit different last year. So I got a couple properties with my dad as well. So he's always sort of wanted to invest within property, but he was going to do it with his brother, and then that never happened. And then obviously, as I got into property, the sourcing and investing, I said to him, "What do you want to?" I didn't necessarily like 2 years ago when we bought Grafton, big project. Obviously, I wanted to buy as many as possible. I said to him, "What do you want to come in and do it?" And he was a little bit wary. Obviously, you've got a young son here throwing money about in property, and he was a little bit like, "Do you know what you're doing here? Just throwing money about here." And obviously, mortgage side of stuff, which obviously you'll know about, and some other people may. I can get the mortgage on a 6-bed HMO with no previous landlord experience, which my dad had one buy-to-let, which obviously allowed us to get the mortgage because he had the landlord experience, which was fine. So yeah, we started buying together. We got a couple of properties with another business partner, and then a couple by myself as well. But we bought a villa in Spain, completed early Jan.
Were you and your dad?
Yeah. So we bought a villa in Spain, so that's something a little bit different with the plan to Airbnb it. Absolute nightmare buying a property in Spain. There's so many.
The EU stuff, hasn't it changed or just been made a lot? It's been made a lot more difficult, isn't it, to buy?
So hard. We went out to Spain, so obviously within rugby we get 5 weeks off. Like the October time, we went over to Spain, viewed a couple of properties, ended up spending more than we probably wanted to. We went for like an apartment, came away with a villa. Just because it was worth it for like that. They were bank owned.
Yeah.
So the good buys. I mean, when they were first brought out, they were €250,000. We picked it up for just over half of that. So they're really good buys. It's on a golf resort as well. So there's all golf courses around it. It's brilliant, to be fair. Yeah, they're an absolute nightmare to buy. Just running through loops, and they don't like. Although I have income, not self-employed, they don't like people with businesses, and they don't like people with properties over here. Even if it's a limited company, which is weird, they see it as more of a risk. Because obviously you got mortgages on some properties. Things like that. They see it as a little bit of risk. So I had like accountants' letters for all the businesses to do some self-assessments, things like that. But the plan is obviously stick it on Airbnb, Booking.com, but we can never get it on there because my mum and dad are always out there. They've just come back again 2 days ago, so we've not managed to rent it out because they keep going out.
You have to start charging them money for it.
Yeah, sticking that on there. Yeah, it's a good little thing. I wouldn't have done it if obviously my mum and dad didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But they've always had like properties abroad and always enjoyed that side of things. Like it's not the right time for me. Like I can never go just for rugby. But investment wise, that's probably more capital appreciation than anything. They'll hopefully fly up in value in the future.
Oh, brilliant. So you're an international property investor. Is that what you class yourself as now?
Yeah, a little bit higher class now.
Normanton, now an international property developer.
Normanton to Spain.
That's it, yeah.
But yeah, I know a lot of people investing abroad, and although like cash flow and things like that might not be as good, and obviously you have to, if you're mortgaging them, you have to stick a lot more deposit down than you do here. But appreciation wise, everyone that I know have always done extremely well. I've invested abroad. Obviously, if you buy right and things like that, so it's more of a long term. Obviously, you can enjoy it with your family and things like that. But in the long term, you'll hopefully reap the rewards a lot. Yeah,
definitely. Like I say, if you end up putting on Airbnb and Booking.com and stuff like that, you will start getting some income. So what's the next few years look like for you then? Your businesses, what's the plan? Even rugby as well. Like, have you signed a recent contract? Like, what's?
Yeah, so I've been offered a new deal at Castleford that I'm at now. Just sort of in like a negotiation stage, speaking to other clubs and seeing where we go with that side of things. Obviously, I've probably set up the business to work around rugby, although sometimes, probably recently, it's difficult timings and struggling with time to do it with obviously the lettings and things like that now. Obviously, I've had a long think about it. I'll continue playing rugby probably as long as I can. Rugby's not a long career. Like I might stop at 30 years old, but if I stop any sooner, I think when I get older I'll regret it because you can't play rugby at 50 years old, can you? But you can still do business at 50 years old is probably the way I think about it. So obviously, as long as people want me, I'll carry on playing rugby. Business side of stuff is scale. It's time to grow. It's time to scale. I'm 23 now. It's time to really step things up. I think probably investment wise a bit as well.
As if like you're getting on a bit.
Yeah, I'm 23 now. I feel old though, with black eye and everything. But yeah, like although I'm still young, I feel like I've been doing it quite a while now, and it's time to, let's go for it now. Let's do it. Let's really scale. So everything is in regards, probably the sourcing company, so PPS is maintain, but drift more towards buy-to-let and HMO sourcing. Although we're doing quite a lot of it, we still do a lot of rent-to-rent. That's probably more drift to buy-to-let and HMO. We charge higher fees. there's a lot more people wanting that from what I can see, and obviously that feeds into everything else, into the lettings and management, obviously our investing, things like that. So yeah, that's probably maintained, but switch a little bit to that. Obviously KK accommodation, the lettings and management is stale. Like that's the one that we're going to fly up. Obviously within that, obviously we managed quite a lot already, but from what I'm bringing, we want to be at like 50, 60 by the end of the year, which is easily achievable. That's the original goal we set, which obviously might change now. We're getting quite a lot of demand from it, and landlords coming on board. So yeah, that side is to do it, but again, keep the product and what we can offer. I think with stuff like that, you can scale at such a pace, but then your service might drop a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm really conscious with that side. But then, obviously, all the business has always been set up to feed back to buy. So we've set a goal, we want to buy 5 or 6 this year at minimum. We did it last year. Obviously, we've done it previous year as well. Now we're up to 11. So yeah, buy 5 or 6 this year. Hull, Doncaster, places like that, probably primarily Hull. We're doing a lot of JVs with people as well. Well, we've got one JV partner involved. But basically where we do all the work, we'll source the investment, we'll manage it, we'll refurb it. If we need to go through councils, we'll do councils. So essentially that's our role. Their role is you put the money in, we'll grow. And some people do like 10% returns and 12% returns. We are more down the side of we'll create the business for you.
Yeah.
We're 50-50, you put the money in, we'll do absolutely everything, and we'll grow a really good property portfolio for you. So we've got someone on board to do that with this year. Money's in the bank, we just need to find the investments for them now. And then we've got 2 on Melrose Street that are due a refinance. So we refinance money from them, we'll be buying again. Yeah, everything's just grow and systemize and essentially ready to go to the next level, I think.
Brilliant. Well, like you say you're only 23, but you've got a wise head on your shoulders. At 23, I work like that. I don't have any regrets, but like one thing I wish I looked at more when I was younger was about wealth and investing and learning that side of things. I mean, I was going to Ibiza, Creamfields, and flew to the other side of the so that was my early 20s.
That'll be me when I'm 50.
Yeah, you'll be doing.
Yeah, I'm going to flip it.
Yeah. I'll hopefully have a successful business there, and you'll be off in Ibiza and Creamfields.
Yeah, bouncing around. But I think, like, I always think about that, like, uni. Obviously, we have some students in Hull and things like that. I always think about, like, uni life. Ibiza. Obviously, I've been on lads' holidays with Rugby, but we do October, whereas it's obviously people know it's not in season.
Yeah.
I always think about stuff like that, like, will I be rated, will I not? The main reason I've not, like, I'd have done it same as you. The main reason I couldn't was because of rugby.
Yeah.
So that's another side of thing, that it keeps you on the ground. Although, and that's why some lads don't do it, because they want to do that experience, go to festivals, go, travelling in Australia and things like that, which is great. Like, that I'd respect them for doing that and going away from rugby and doing it. But if you're in rugby, it keeps you away from all that stuff, which has obviously led to everything else that I've done as well. Yeah, without rugby, I'd have 100% done them things. 100%.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it is around that 15, 16. Like, you could be the most talented kid, but then if you start boozing and meeting birds and alcohol and whatever else, just changes your course, doesn't it? And you're not as fit anymore. You're slow. Your priorities go elsewhere, and that leads to that discipline and willpower, isn't it? It's like, everything you're sacrificing now is going to come off in the future. And obviously you've had how many games now in Super League?
Just over 30 now.
Yeah,
just over 30 games now. It's we've seen so many lads. Obviously, you go from playing at 8 years old, obviously, to 15, 16, then people stay amateur or leave or go pro. So many lads that were a lot better players than other people, but they just can't stick to it. They just can't do it.
Yeah.
Whether it's rubbish money, but most of the time it's, I want to go travelling, I want to go partying. I don't want to train on a bank holiday. I want to go out. And we train most bank holidays.
Yeah.
So that leads to a lot of people that when people see like footballers, rugby players, they don't think, you sacrifice so much, and like even like family. Like if you've got a missus, like we can only go on holiday in October.
Yeah.
So like we got to wait basically all year to go on holiday. So that obviously affects your missus and people you're with and things like that. But it's all part of the sacrifice, and I think you just get used to it. Like it's just normal for me now. That
The way of life, isn't it?
yeah, 100%.
Sound lovely. Well, Brad, I'll share all your details on the show notes if you ping them over to me. But it's been good catching up. Been a while, isn't it? Last time I saw you, bumped in in Starbucks. So you have to let me know next time you're there.
No, 100%. I mean, I'm there like I think I mentioned before, like 3-4 times a week now. Running about Hull. So yeah, definitely will do.
Brilliant. All right, mate. Well, listen, appreciate you coming on, and thanks for telling us your story.
No problem, mate. Thanks for having me on, mate.
Unbelievable. Thank you for joining us this week. We hope we added value to your day. Stay tuned and see you next time for another unbelievable episode. See you next time.